Hi everyone, this is the news and notes for week 12 of our course covering April 20th through April 27th. The content for this week is focusing on a house divided from 1840 to 1861, where we'll be looking in depth at the sectional crisis that led to the outbreak of the American Civil War in April of 1861. Some of the materials you're going to be looking at this week focus on the causes of that conflict, including a primary source focusing on the 1860 Republican Party platform when Republicans met in Chicago to nominate Abraham Lincoln as the Republican candidate for the presidency. He'd be up against three other opponents for that office. The party planks that are laid out as part of this platform help to add some insight to what was taking place in the context of the sectional crisis in the midst of the American Civil War. And as we scroll through, you'll see point by point what they were most concerned with. Paramount in the concerns that are laid out in this document have to do with the expansion of American territory towards the West and what freedom would look like in the Western territories, the preservation of the Union. There are mentions of the issue of slavery and the expansion of slavery, with focus on issues relating to the Declaration of Independence, as you can see towards the top here, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So there is mention of the issues relating to the Declaration of Independence as it relates to the question of slavery. As we go down towards the bottom of the page here, you can see that in the eighth plank that the normal condition of all the territory of the United States is that of freedom. The ninth plank that we brand the recent reopening of the African slave trade under the cover of our national flag, aided by perversions of judicial power as a crime against humanity and a burning shame to our country and age. And they ask for Congress to take prompt and efficient measures for the total and final suppression of that execrable traffic. So they are worried about the reopening of the transatlantic slave trade. They are worried about the expansion of slavery into the Western territories, but there's a reaffirmation that barring some sort of constitutional action via amendment to the Constitution itself, the Republicans, at least as of 1860, felt that there wasn't much that they could do about the institution of slavery. And as the Civil War progresses, we're going to see how Lincoln tackles that terrible trade in human lives internally and the institution of slavery as a whole by taking it on step by step throughout the course of the Civil War. So that'll be covered in week 13 as we look at the Civil War, and week 14 as we look at the question of Reconstruction following the Civil War. There is mention in this document of the slave trade itself. If you're thinking back to earlier in the 19th century, you're probably wondering, oh, they took care of that in 1807 with the passage of restrictions on and the barring of the transatlantic slave trade, which went into effect in 1808. The trouble is that because the transatlantic slave trade was so lucrative, people continued to pursue the transatlantic slave trade even when it became illegal. So one of the supplemental resources that I'm going to be posting this week for you to review is a very quick, about 5-minute video covering the discovery of the schooner Clotilda, which is the very last documented slave ship from Africa to the United States as of 1860. So this is the last documented arrival of West Africans on American shores via the transatlantic slave trade. And the descendants of those individuals still live in Alabama today near Africatown. So that's all covered in the course of this video segment. So one other thing to note this week for April 20th through the 27th, the content quiz that was listed in the syllabus for this week is being moved to week 13, April 27th through May 4th. So there are no assessments this week. You just need to review the content And as you're looking forward to the last few weeks of the semester, we have the one discussion next week that has been converted to just a quick write. You just need to do one post for that discussion. You need to complete quiz 4. And then after the completion of week 14, there will be the final exam. Those are the final assessments for this class. So as always, if you have any questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out via email or the Ask the Professor forum. And I hope you learn a lot this week about the causes of the Civil War via our discussion of the sectional crisis.